The fluorescent lights buzzed above Simone's hospital bed, each sound drilling into her skull like a reminder that she was still alive when part of her wished she wasn't. Her entire body ached from the car accident 3 days ago. Broken ribs, fractured leg, internal bruising that painted her torso in shades of purple and black. The morphine drip kept the worst pain at bay, but nothing could prepare her for what was about to happen. She heard his footsteps before she saw him. Jerome's expensive dress shoes clicked against the linoleum floor with that confident rhythm she used to find attractive. Now it just sounded cold. He appeared in the doorway of her hospital room, but he didn't rush to her side like a worried husband should. He didn't even sit down. "Simone," he said, his voice flat and businesslike. "Jerome." She tried to sit up straighter, wincing at the sharp pain in her ribs. "I've been trying to call you. Where have you been?" "I've been thinking." He crossed his arms, standing at the foot of her bed like she was a stranger. "About us. About everything." Something in his tone made her stomach drop. This wasn't a concerned visit. This was something else entirely. "What do you mean?" she asked, though part of her already knew. "I'm leaving you," he said simply, as if he was commenting on the weather. "I'm with Candace now. We're moving in together next week." Simone felt like she'd been hit by another car. Candace? His co-worker from the marketing firm. The woman he'd sworn was just a friend, whenever Simone questioned their late-night meetings. "You're what?" Her voice came out as a whisper. "Jerome, I'm in a hospital bed. I almost died." "That doesn't change anything," he replied, checking his watch. "I've been unhappy for a long time. This accident just made me realize I can't waste any more years pretending." Pretending? Simone's heart was racing now, the monitor beside her bed beeping faster. "We've been married for 8 years. 8 years, Jerome. 8 years of you working all the time, building your little design business, never having time for me." His words were practiced like he'd rehearsed this speech. "Candace appreciates me. She puts me first." Simone wanted to scream that she'd been working to build their future, to pay off his student loans, to afford the house he wanted. But the words stuck in her throat. "The hospital bills," she managed to say. "Insurance only covers part of it. The surgery, the ICU. Not my problem anymore," Jerome interrupted. He pulled something from his pocket, her insurance card. "I'm taking my name off your policy. You're on your own for medical expenses." "You can't do that." "Jerome, I can't even walk right now. How am I supposed to?" "Figure it out, Simone. You're always so smart, always so capable. I'm sure you'll manage." He dropped the insurance card on the table beside her bed, just out of her reach. "My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce. Oh, and since I'm co-owner of your business now, we'll need to discuss that too." The business? The graphic design company she'd built from nothing, that she'd been stupid enough to put his name on last year when he said it would help with taxes. "You can't take my business. We'll see what the court says." He turned toward the door. "Goodbye, Simone." "Wait." She tried to reach for him, but the movement sent pain shooting through her broken ribs. "Jerome, please. Don't do this. We can work through this." He paused at the doorway and looked back at her. For a moment she thought she saw something, regret, hesitation, anything human. But his eyes were empty. "I stopped loving you a long time ago," he said quietly. "This is just me being honest." Then he walked out, his footsteps fading down the hallway, leaving her alone with the beeping monitors and the crushing weight of betrayal. Simone stared at the ceiling, tears streaming down her face. Her body was broken. Her marriage was over. Her business was at risk. And she had hospital bills she couldn't pay stacking up by the hour. A nurse came in 15 minutes later, an older woman named Patricia who'd been checking on her regularly. She took one look at Simone's face and knew something terrible had happened. "Honey, what's wrong? Are you in pain? Should I increase your medication?" "My husband," Simone choked out. "He just left me. He took the insurance card. I don't know how I'm going to pay for any of this." Patricia's expression shifted from concern to anger. "I saw that man walk out of here. Didn't even look back. Some people have no decency." She adjusted Simone's pillows gently. "Don't you worry about the bills right now. You focus on healing." "I have nothing left," Simone whispered. "Everything is falling apart." "Sometimes things have to fall apart so better things can come together," Patricia said softly. "I've been a nurse for 30 years. I've seen people come back from worse than this." Simone wanted to believe her, but right now, lying broken in a hospital bed, abandoned by the man she'd devoted her life to, she couldn't see any way forward. The door opened again and a tall, distinguished man in a white coat entered. He had kind eyes and graying hair at his temples. His badge read, Dr. Gabriel Monroe, Chief of Medicine. Mrs. Simone Foster? He asked gently. Just Simone, she said bitterly. I don't think I'll be keeping that last name much longer. Dr. Monroe pulled up a chair beside her bed, actually sat down, unlike Jerome. Simone, I need to speak with you about your hospital bills. Her heart sank. Of course. They were probably going to move her to a cheaper room or demand payment up front. I know I can't pay right now, she started. But I can set up a payment plan. I have a business, or at least I did. I just need time. Your bills have been paid in full, Dr. Monroe said quietly. Simone stopped mid-sentence. What? Every expense, the emergency surgery, the ICU stay, the medications, the ongoing care, all of it has been covered. That's not possible. Jerome just said. This has nothing to do with your husband. Dr. Monroe leaned forward, his expression serious. Simone, I have something important to tell you. Something that's going to change everything. But I need you to stay calm and let me explain. Simone looked at this stranger who just told her impossible news. Her entire world had shattered an hour ago. What else could possibly happen? Who are you? She asked. Really? I'm exactly who my badge says I am, Dr. Monroe replied. But I'm also someone who's been looking for you for a very long time. And now that I've found you, everything is about to change. Simone stared at Dr. Monroe, her mind racing through possibilities. Was this some kind of insurance scam? A mistake? She'd been through enough today without adding more confusion. I don't understand, she said carefully. You've been looking for me? We've never met before. No, we haven't, Dr. Monroe agreed. But I made a promise to someone very important that I would find you. And 3 months ago, when you came in for a routine checkup after a minor accident, your blood work was entered into our system. That's when I knew. Knew what? Dr. Monroe pulled out a tablet and opened a file. Simone, what do you know about your birth parents? The question caught her off guard. My parents died 6 months ago in a house fire. Car accident before that took my dad, then Mom died from complications. She stopped. Why are you asking about them? The people who raised you, Dr. Monroe said gently, were not your biological parents. The room seemed to tilt. Simone gripped the bed rails. That's impossible. I have birth certificates, photos, everything. Forged documents, Dr. Monroe said. Simone, you were kidnapped when you were 6 months old. Taken from your mother's home by a woman who couldn't have children of her own. The people who raised you, did they ever talk about your early childhood? Show you baby pictures from before 6 months? Simone's mind raced back. Actually, no. Her mother had always said the early photos were lost in a flood. And now that she thought about it, there were no hospital records from her birth, no newborn pictures. She'd always assumed it was just bad record keeping. This is crazy, she whispered. Your biological mother was Helena Ashford, Dr. Monroe continued. She spent 32 years searching for you. She never gave up, never stopped hoping. She hired investigators, set up databases, created a DNA registry through her hospitals. When you came in for that checkup, your blood work was automatically cross-referenced. Helena Ashford. The name sounded familiar. The philanthropist? The one who owned hospitals. Yes. And 6 months ago, she passed away from cancer. Dr. Monroe's voice was heavy with sadness. She was my closest friend. Before she died, she made me promise to keep searching for you, to find you no matter how long it took. This can't be real. Simone's head was spinning. People don't just get kidnapped and... It happened more often than you think in the early 90s, Dr. Monroe interrupted. Your mother, Helena, was a single parent, a young doctor building her first clinic. Someone posing. As a nurse took you from the hospital nursery. By the time the alarm was raised, you were gone. He showed her the tablet screen. There was a DNA analysis report, with matches highlighted in bright blue. Then photographs, a woman who looked remarkably like Simone with the same eyes, the same smile. Helena Ashford in various stages of life, always with a sadness behind her eyes. She never married, Dr. Monroe said quietly. Never had other children. You were everything to her, even when she didn't know where you were. She built an empire of hospitals and medical centers, all in the hope that one day somehow, it would help her find you. Simone touched the screen, tracing the face of the woman who was supposedly her mother. A mother she'd never known existed. Why didn't she find me sooner? If she was so rich, so powerful. The people who raised you moved frequently, Dr. Monroe explained. 14 different cities before you turned 18. They used different names, avoided hospitals and official records whenever possible. Helena's investigators came close several times, but you always moved right before they arrived. The frequent moves. Her parents' paranoia about doctors and government records. The way they always paid in cash, never stayed anywhere longer than 2 years. Simone had thought it was just their lifestyle, their way of being free spirits. Now it looked like something else entirely. She wanted to find you herself, to be there when you learned the truth, Dr. Monroe continued. But the cancer was aggressive. In her final weeks, she made me promise to continue the search. To find you and tell you everything. To make sure you received your inheritance. Inheritance. Dr. Monroe pulled up another document. Simone saw numbers that made no sense. Too many zeros. Helena's entire estate was left to you, he said. $47 million in assets. That includes this hospital, Monroe Medical Center, plus 3 other hospitals in different states. Several apartment buildings. A venture capital firm that invests in medical startups. Property, stocks, bonds. All of it is yours. Simone couldn't breathe. This had to be a dream or a hallucination from the pain medication. People's lives didn't change like this. Not real lives. I want to see proof, she said firmly. Real proof. Not just photos and numbers on a screen. Of course. Dr. Monroe stood up. I have Helena's personal attorney waiting outside. Her name is Nicole Bradford. She's been managing the estate and waiting for this moment. She has all the legal documentation. DNA tests from multiple labs, birth certificates, Helena's will, everything. He opened the door and a sharp-looking woman in her 50s entered, carrying a leather briefcase. She had intelligent eyes and a professional manner that commanded respect. Miss Foster, Nicole said, extending her hand. Or should I say Miss Ashford? I've been waiting a long time to meet you. Over the next hour, Nicole laid out the evidence piece by piece. 3 separate DNA tests, all confirming Simone was Helena's daughter. The original birth certificate from St. Mary's Hospital, showing her real name, Simone Claire Ashford. Hospital records from the kidnapping. Police reports. Private investigator files documenting the search. Then Helena's personal journals, years of entries describing her daughter, wondering where she was, what she looked like, if she was happy. The grief was palpable on every page. She wrote to you every week, Nicole explained, showing Simone a box filled with letters. Letters she never sent because she didn't know where to send them. But she wrote them anyway, telling you about her life, her hopes, her dreams for the day she'd find you. Simone picked up one of the letters with shaking hands. The handwriting was elegant, the words heartbreaking. My dearest Simone, it began. Today is your 10th birthday wherever you are. I imagine you blowing out candles, surrounded by friends. I hope you're happy. I hope whoever has you is treating you well, even though they stole you from me. I hope you know somehow that you are loved, that you were always loved, that not a day has passed when I haven't thought of you. Tears fell onto the page. Simone couldn't stop them. She never stopped looking, Dr. Monroe said softly. And she made sure that even if she couldn't find you in her lifetime, you would be taken care of. Everything she built was for you. Why? Simone choked out. Why did they take me? The people who raised me, they weren't wealthy. We barely had enough sometimes. Mental illness, Nicole said gently. The woman who took you had recently lost a baby. She couldn't cope with the grief. She saw you in that nursery and something in her mind broke. Her husband went along with it, probably out of love for her. They weren't evil people, Simone. Just broken people who made a terrible choice. Simone thought about her parents, the people she'd called mom and dad her whole life. They had loved her in their way. They'd been kind if distant, paranoid and secretive but never cruel. Did they know Helena was looking? Yes, Dr. Monroe said. The investigators believed they lived with that fear every day. That's why they kept moving, kept hiding. They knew what they'd done was wrong, but they couldn't give you back. You were their daughter by then. And now they're dead, Simone said quietly. And so is Helena. And I'm here with a husband who just abandoned me, finding out my entire life was a lie. Not a lie, Nicole corrected firmly. A tragedy. A crime. But also an opportunity. Helena left you more than money, Simone. She left you a legacy. A chance to build something meaningful. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Simone looked around the hospital room, the same room where Jerome had walked out on her an hour ago. The same room where she'd thought her life was ending. I don't know, she admitted. I don't know anything anymore. Then let's start simple, Dr. Monroe said. First you heal. Then we'll figure out the rest together. Helena asked me to guide you to help you navigate this new world. I promised her I would. And I keep my promises. Simone nodded slowly, exhaustion washing over her. Her brain couldn't process anymore. One more thing, Nicole said, pulling out a final document. Your husband filed for divorce this morning. I took the liberty of reviewing the petition. There are some irregularities we need to discuss. Later, Dr. Monroe said, seeing Simone's overwhelmed expression. She needs rest. As they left, Simone lay back against the pillows, staring at the ceiling. Hours ago she'd been abandoned and broken, with nothing but debt and despair. Now she was supposedly worth millions, the daughter of a woman who'd loved her from afar for 3 decades. None of it felt real. But the letters in the box beside her bed were real. And the DNA evidence was real. And somewhere in this impossible situation was a truth she needed to find. Her old life had ended today. Jerome had made sure of that. But maybe, just maybe, Dr. Monroe was right. Maybe something better was beginning. 5 days after the revelation, Simone was sitting up in bed, her laptop balanced carefully on a portable table. Her ribs still ached with every breath, but the pain had dulled to something manageable. What hurt more was what she was discovering on her screen. Look at this, she said to Nicole, who'd become a daily visitor. Another transfer. $5,000 from our joint account to an account in Candace's name. That's the 8th one this month. Nicole leaned in, her reading glasses perched on her nose. And this goes back how far? 2 years. Simone scrolled through the banking records, her stomach churning. I thought we were saving for a house. He told me he was putting money aside for our future. Technically he was putting it aside, Nicole said dryly. Just not for a future with you. Simone clicked through more files. She'd been granted remote access to their shared accounts and email by the bank. Technically her money since she was the primary account holder. What she found was worse than she'd imagined. Here's an email from 18 months ago, she said, reading aloud. Baby, just 2 more years and we'll have everything. She's so busy with her clients she doesn't even notice the transfers. Once I get my name on the business deed, we can bleed that dry too, then I'm free. The words felt like knives. Nicole made notes on her tablet, her expression grim. That's premeditated fraud, she said. And this email from Candace responding, I can't wait to spend every penny of that boring woman's money. That's conspiracy to commit fraud. Simone found more emails, each one worse than the last. Plans to take clients from her business. Strategies to make her look incompetent to their mutual friends. Jerome complaining about having to pretend to care about her, counting down the days until he could leave. The affair started right after I put his name on my business, Simone realized. He was waiting for that. Planning this whole time. Which means every transfer, every purchase, every debt he incurred in your name was part of a systematic plan to defraud you. Nicole was typing rapidly now. This is excellent for our case. Terrible for you emotionally, I'm sure, but legally this is a gift. A gift. Simone supposed that was one way to look at having proof that her entire marriage had been a calculated con. Dr. Monroe entered the room carrying a folder. How's the investigation going? She's a natural detective, Nicole said. We have enough here to bury him in court. Good. Dr. Monroe set down the folder. Because I have more news. About the business. Simone tensed. What about it? I had my people look into the company finances. Jerome has been selling equipment. Your high-end computers, your design software licenses, even office furniture. Everything that wasn't bolted down. He can't do that. That's my business. Your business that he's co-owner of? Dr. Monroe reminded her. Legally he can claim he's liquidating assets. The question is where the money went. Simone already knew the answer. Candace. Most likely. But we'll need proof. Dr. Monroe opened his folder. Which is why I want you to meet someone. His name is Tony Williams. He's a private investigator who used to work with Helena on her search for you. He's very good at finding things people want to hide. I thought we already had enough evidence, Simone said. We have evidence of fraud in your marriage, Nicole explained. What we don't have yet is a complete picture of what Jerome has been doing with your business. If he's been stealing from clients, misrepresenting work, or damaging your professional reputation, we need to know. Those are additional charges. Simone thought about her clients, people who trusted her, who relied on her designs for their marketing campaigns. If Jerome had been sabotaging that work while she was focused on keeping up with deadlines? Bring him in, she said firmly. I want to know everything. Tony Williams arrived an hour later. He was in his 40s, with sharp eyes that seemed to assess everything in the room. He shook Simone's hand carefully, mindful of her injuries. "Ms. Ashford," he said, and Simone was still getting used to that name. "Dr. Monroe has briefed me on your situation. I'm sorry for what you're going through. Can you help?" "I can find out exactly what your husband has been doing," Tony replied. "But I need to warn you, sometimes the truth is harder than not knowing." "I need to know," Simone said. "All of it." Tony nodded. "Then let's start with your client list. I'll need names, contact information, and details about recent projects." They worked for the next 2 hours, Simone providing everything she could remember about her business operations. Tony took notes, asked pointed questions, and occasionally exchanged looks with Nicole that suggested they were thinking the same things. "One more question," Tony said finally. "Did Jerome have access to your professional email and social media accounts?" "Yes. We shared passwords for everything." He said it was about trust. The irony wasn't lost on Simone. "Right?" Tony's expression suggested that was exactly what he'd expected to hear. "Give me a week. I'll compile a complete report." After Tony left, Simone felt exhausted but also strangely energized. 4 days she'd been the victim, abandoned, betrayed, helpless in a hospital bed. Now she was fighting back, gathering ammunition for a battle she hadn't chosen but would definitely win. "You should see this," Dr. Monroe said, showing her another document. "Helena's estate includes something else you might find useful." It was a list of properties. Not just the hospitals and apartment buildings Nicole had mentioned, but also a small office building in downtown, perfect for relocating a design business away from Jerome's reach. "Helena bought properties strategically," Dr. Monroe explained, "always thinking about how they could help others. This building has been used as an incubator space for women-owned businesses. There's a suite available right now. You're saying I could move my business there?" "I'm saying you have options," Dr. Monroe replied. "Jerome thinks he's got you trapped. But you have resources he doesn't know about. An entire empire he doesn't suspect exists." Simone thought about that. Jerome had walked away thinking he'd destroyed her, left her with nothing but medical debt and a failing business. He had no idea she was the daughter of one of the wealthiest women in the state. No idea that the hospital he'd abandoned her in was actually hers. "We keep this quiet," she said suddenly. "The inheritance, everything. As far as Jerome knows, I'm still broke and desperate." Nicole smiled. "I like the way you think." "He's planning to take me to court for half the business and spousal support," Simone continued, her mind working through the strategy. "Let him think he's winning. Let him think I'm vulnerable. We gather all the evidence we need and then we hit him with everything at once." "A tactical approach," Dr. Monroe approved. Helena would have liked that. Over the next few days, Simone dove deeper into the evidence. She found credit card bills for expensive dinners she'd never attended, hotel charges for weekends she'd thought Jerome was at conferences, jewelry purchases she'd never received. The worst discovery came on day 7. Buried in an old email folder was a message from Jerome to Candace, sent 6 months before the accident. "Once she has that car crash I've been planning, everything speeds up. I'll play the grieving husband, get the life insurance and we're set." Simone read it 3 times, not believing what she was seeing. Dr. Monroe had come in for his evening check-in and found her staring at the screen, pale and shaking. "What is it?" he asked, then read the email himself. His expression darkened. "We need to show this to Nicole immediately." "He planned it," Simone whispered. "The accident. It wasn't random. He tampered with my car." Nicole arrived within 20 minutes, read the email, and immediately called Tony. The investigation expanded. Tony pulled maintenance records for Simone's car, interviewed the mechanic who'd last serviced it, and reviewed the police report from the accident. The brake line had been partially cut, Tony reported 2 days later. Not enough to fail immediately but enough to fail under stress. The police didn't notice because they assumed it was damage from the crash itself. Simone felt cold. Jerome hadn't just betrayed her. He tried to kill her. "This changes everything," Nicole said. "This isn't just fraud and theft anymore. This is attempted murder." "Can we prove it was him?" Simone asked. "We can prove the brake line was tampered with. We can prove he had motive and opportunity. He was the last person to use your car before the accident. Combined with this email, it builds a very strong case." Dr. Monroe sat down heavily. "Simone, I need to ask you something important. How do you want to handle this? We can go to the police right now with this evidence. Jerome could face criminal charges." Simone thought about it. Part of her wanted Jerome in prison, wanted him to suffer the way he'd made her suffer. But another part of her just wanted this done, wanted him out of her life completely. What would Helena do? She asked Dr. Monroe. He considered the question carefully. Helena believed in justice, but she also believed in strategy. She'd want to make sure you were protected first, that he couldn't hurt you again. Then we use this in the divorce, Simone decided. We show him we know everything. Make it clear that if he fights us, this goes to the police. We get everything back that he stole, plus damages. And then we're done. Nicole nodded slowly. A settlement with teeth. I can work with that. But if he refuses, Simone added, her voice hard, if he tries to fight or hurt me again, then we bury him. Criminally, financially, every way possible. Agreed, Nicole said, making notes. I'll draft the settlement proposal. It won't be pretty. As the lawyer left, Dr. Monroe studied Simone's face. You're stronger than you think. I don't feel strong, Simone admitted. I feel angry and scared and betrayed. Strength isn't about not feeling those things, Dr. Monroe replied. It's about feeling them and moving forward anyway. Helena felt that way too after you were taken. She could have given up, let the grief consume her. Instead, she built an empire. She turned her pain into purpose. Simone looked at the box of letters Helena had written, still sitting beside her bed. She'd been reading them every night, getting to know the mother she'd never met. The woman who'd never stopped fighting for her. Tell me about her, Simone said. Not just the business stuff. What was she like? Dr. Monroe smiled, settling into his chair. She was brilliant and stubborn. She laughed at terrible jokes and cried at sappy movies. She worked too hard and cared too much. She was lonely, I think, but she never complained. Every year on your birthday, she'd buy a cake and sing to an empty room. She'd make a wish for you to come home. I wish I'd known her, Simone said softly. She knew you in a way. She followed your life from a distance once the investigators found traces. She saw your high school graduation from across the street. She bought a copy of every design you posted online under your maiden name. She was proud of you even when you didn't know she existed. Tears fell freely now. Simone had lost so much. Her marriage, her trust, her sense of safety. But she'd also gained something. A connection to a woman who'd loved her unconditionally, who'd fought for her until her last breath. I won't let Jerome win, Simone said firmly. Helena spent her whole life fighting for me. The least I can do is fight for what she left me. That's the spirit, Dr. Monroe said. And you're not fighting alone. You have me, Nicole, Tony. You have resources and support. Jerome thinks he's got the upper hand. He has no idea what's coming for him. Simone looked at her laptop, at the evidence she'd gathered, at the proof of Jerome's betrayal and crimes. She thought about the settlement Nicole was drafting, about the life she was going to rebuild from the ashes of her marriage. Jerome had left her in this hospital thinking he'd destroyed her. Instead, he'd set her free. And now she was going to make him regret every choice that led to this moment. Simone was discharged from the hospital on a Thursday morning, 11 days after the accident that had changed everything. Dr. Monroe arranged for a private car to take her to her new home, Helena's estate on the outskirts of the city. She'd seen photos, but nothing prepared her for the reality. The car turned through iron gates and followed a tree-lined drive to a stunning contemporary house. Floor-to-ceiling windows, clean lines, a perfect blend of modern design and natural beauty. Gardens sprawled in every direction. Helena designed it herself, Dr. Monroe explained, helping her out of the car. She was trained as a doctor, but she had an eye for design. She said this house was meant for you. She built it hoping you'd come home someday. Simone stood on the front steps, overwhelmed. Inside, the house was bright and open, decorated in soothing colors. There was a state-of-the-art kitchen, a library filled with books, a studio space with perfect northern light. That was going to be your room, Dr. Monroe said, pointing to a bright bedroom with French doors opening to the garden. Helena kept it ready. She'd buy you birthday presents every year and put them in there. They're still waiting. Simone walked into the room and found wrapped packages stacked carefully on shelves. 32 years of birthday gifts. She picked up one marked age 25, and unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a beautiful leather portfolio for design work, top quality. She paid attention to your career, Dr. Monroe said softly. Every year the gifts reflected what you were doing with your life. She knew you were a designer. She was proud. Simone sat down on the bed, surrounded by decades of love from a woman she'd never met. It was too much to process. Take your time settling in, Dr. Monroe said. I'll be in the main house office if you need anything. We should talk about the estate, but it can wait until you're ready. After he left, Simone explored her new home. In the master suite, she found Helena's personal items still in place. Photos of baby Simone, the ones taken before the kidnapping. Medical journals. More letters. A diary from Helena's final months. Simone opened the diary to a random page. The entry was dated 6 months before Helena's death. "The cancer is spreading faster than I hoped," Helena had written. "Dr. Monroe says 6 months, maybe a year. I've made peace with dying. What I can't accept is dying without finding her." Simone would be 32 now. I wonder if she's happy. I wonder if she has children of her own. Does she know she was loved? Does she ever wonder about her real mother? Gabriel promises to keep searching. He's a good man. If he finds her after I'm gone, I hope he'll help her. I hope she'll understand why I never stopped looking. Simone closed the diary, wiping her eyes. She pulled out her phone and called Nicole. "I want to move forward with the divorce settlement," she said when the lawyer answered. "How soon can we do this?" "We can file tomorrow," Nicole replied. "But Simone, you should know. Jerome filed a motion today requesting temporary spousal support. He claims you were the breadwinner and he's entitled to financial assistance during the divorce proceedings." Simone laughed bitterly. "Of course he did. What did you say?" "I said we'd respond appropriately. Which we will. With a countersuit that will make his head spin." "Good. What about the business?" "That's trickier. Since his name is on the paperwork, he does have legal claim to partial ownership. Unless we can prove that he only got his name added through fraud and manipulation?" Simone interrupted. "Because I found more emails. He pressured me to add him by claiming it was necessary for a tax advantage, then immediately started planning to steal the company." "Send me everything," Nicole said. "And Simone? I think it's time we met with the board at Monroe Medical Center. They need to meet their new owner." The next day, Simone walked into the executive boardroom at the hospital. She dressed carefully in a sharp blazer and professional slacks, wanting to look strong despite still moving slowly from her injuries. The board members stood as she entered, 12 people who'd worked with Helena for years. Dr. Monroe made introductions. "Ladies and gentlemen, Simone Ashford, Helena's daughter and the new majority owner of Monroe Medical Center and the Ashford Healthcare Group." "It's an honor to meet you," said Thomas Chin, the chief financial officer. "Helena spoke of you often. We're so glad you've been found." The meeting lasted 2 hours. They walked Simone through the hospital's operations, financial statements, ongoing projects. Monroe Medical Center was profitable and well-run, with an excellent reputation. The other 3 hospitals in the network were similarly successful. Helena had a vision for expanding mental health services, explained Dr. Sarah Kim, the chief of psychiatry. She wanted to create trauma-informed care centers. "The plans are complete, but she passed before we could begin implementation." "Then let's implement them," Simone said. In her memory, the board members exchanged pleased looks. After the meeting, Thomas pulled Simone aside. "There's something else you should see," he said, leading her to Helena's old office. It was a corner suite with views of the city, decorated simply but elegantly. On the desk was a framed photo, baby Simone smiling. "She sat here every day looking at that photo," Thomas said quietly. "She never gave up hope. And now you're here. It's like she knew somehow." Simone touched the frame, studying the baby's face. That was her before everything changed. Before the kidnapping, before the lies, before Jerome and betrayal and broken trust. "I want to learn everything," she told Thomas. "About the hospitals, the investments, how Helena built all this. Can you teach me?" "It would be my honor," he replied. Over the next week, Simone divided her time between learning about her inheritance and building the case against Jerome. Tony delivered his full report on the 5th day and it was devastating. "Your husband has been contacting your clients, telling them you're incompetent and offering to do their work himself at a lower rate," Tony explained. "He's stolen at least 15 accounts and used your business equipment to complete their projects. He's also been bad-mouthing you in professional forums, damaging your reputation." "Can we prove it?" "I have screenshots, recorded phone calls and witness statements from 3 clients who refused his offers and came forward. They're willing to testify." Simone felt a mix of rage and relief. Rage at Jerome's systematic destruction of everything she'd built. Relief that she had the evidence to fight back. Nicole compiled everything into a comprehensive countersuit. Simone read through it in Helena's home office, surrounded by her mother's books and dreams. The document was brutal. It outlined every theft, every lie, every manipulation. It included the attempted murder evidence and Jerome's own emails plotting the fraud. It demanded full return of all stolen assets, complete ownership of the business, compensation for damages to her professional reputation, and restitution for the financial abuse. If he contests this, Nicole explained, we go to court and we air everything. Every email, every affair, every dollar he stole. And then we press criminal charges for the attempted murder. And if he settles? He signs over all rights to the business, returns every dollar he can be proven to have stolen and walks away with nothing. He avoids prison, but he's financially ruined and we make sure everyone knows what he did. Simone thought about Helena, about a woman who'd built an empire from nothing while grieving the loss of her child. Helena had been strong without being vengeful, determined without being cruel. Give him the option to settle, Simone decided. But make it clear, if he fights we destroy him. Completely. The papers were served to Jerome 3 days later. Tony reported back that Jerome had been confident when he received them, probably expecting a standard divorce filing. Then he'd read the contents and his face had gone white. He knows we have everything, Tony said. The question is whether his ego will let him settle or if he'll fight anyway. The answer came 2 days later. Jerome's lawyer called Nicole, asking for a meeting. He wants to negotiate, Nicole told Simone. Should I take the meeting? No, Simone said. I'll take it. I want to see his face when he realizes he lost. The meeting was scheduled for the following Monday at Nicole's office. Simone dressed in one of Helena's elegant suits, perfectly tailored, expensive but understated. She looked like what she was, a woman with power. Jerome arrived with his lawyer, a nervous-looking man who clearly knew his client was doomed. Jerome himself looked terrible, unshaven, clothes wrinkled, eyes bloodshot. When he saw Simone healthy and composed, something flickered across his face. Confusion maybe. He'd expected her to be broken. Simone, he started, but Nicole cut him off. Ms. Ashford, she corrected. You've waived the right to familiarity. The meeting was quick. Nicole laid out the terms. Jerome would sign over all business rights, return $53,000 in proven thefts, and accept full responsibility for the divorce. In exchange, they wouldn't pursue criminal charges for the attempted murder. You can't prove that, Jerome blustered, but his lawyer put a hand on his arm. They can, the lawyer said quietly. I've reviewed their evidence. You need to take this deal. Where did you get all this? Jerome demanded, looking at Simone. The lawyers, the investigators, you couldn't afford any of this a week ago. How? That's none of your concern, Simone said calmly. Do you accept the terms or not? Jerome looked at her, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in years. I don't understand. You were broke. In debt. How did you? Sign the papers, Jerome, Simone interrupted. Or we'll see you in court and the police station. He signed. Everything, every document, every waiver. His hands shook the whole time. As he stood to leave, he tried one last manipulation. Simone, I know I made mistakes, but we were married for 8 years. That has to mean something. Maybe we could. No, Simone said firmly. We're done. You're done. Take the deal and be grateful you're not going to prison. After he left, Nicole allowed herself a smile. That went better than expected. It's not about revenge, Simone said, surprising herself with the truth of it. It's about justice. About making sure he can't hurt anyone else the way he hurt me. That night, alone in Helena's house, Simone sat in the library and read more of her mother's journals. She found an entry from 15 years ago that made her pause. I spoke with a therapist today about letting go, Helena had written. She asked if I was ready to accept that I might never find Simone. I told her no. I will never stop looking. But I also realized something. My search for her can't be about what I lost. It has to be about building something better. If I can create hospitals that help people, medical programs that save lives, then even if Simone never comes home, some good came from my pain. That's not letting go. That's transforming grief into purpose. Simone closed the journal and looked around the beautiful library, at the life Helena had built, at the legacy she'd left behind. Her mother had taken unimaginable pain and created something meaningful from it. And now Simone would do the same. She'd take Jerome's betrayal and the destruction of her marriage and transform it into something better. Not through revenge, but through building a new life that honored Helena's memory. She pulled out her laptop and started making plans. First, relocate the business to the building Helena had owned. Second, rebuild her client base with honesty and excellent work. Third, learn everything she could about running hospitals and helping people. Jerome had tried to destroy her. Instead, he'd set her free to become who she was always meant to be. Simone moved into Helena's downtown office building on a Monday morning, exactly 3 weeks after the accident. The suite was on the third floor with large windows overlooking the city. She hired movers to retrieve her equipment from the old office before Jerome could sell anything else. He showed up this morning looking for computers, Tony reported via phone. Found the place empty. I have surveillance footage if you want to see his reaction. No, Simone said, arranging her design equipment in the new space. I don't need to see it. I just need to move forward. But moving forward was complicated. That afternoon, Nicole called with news about Jerome's next move. He's filed a new motion, the lawyer said, claiming you somehow hid assets from him during the marriage and now you're using those assets to unfairly advantage yourself in the divorce. That's ridiculous. I didn't even know about the inheritance until after he left me. I know. But his lawyer is arguing that the timing is suspicious. They're demanding full financial disclosure from you, trying to prove the inheritance existed before the separation. Simone thought about this. They don't know when Helena died? It's public record that she died 6 months ago. But the inheritance was kept private. Only the board and legal team knew there was a daughter. We've kept your identity quiet. So Jerome is fishing, Simone realized. Trying to figure out where my resources came from? Exactly. And if he finds out you inherited millions, he'll claim he's entitled to half since you were married when Helena died. Simone leaned back in her new office chair, thinking strategically. But I didn't know about the inheritance. I had no access to it. I was still living on my design income when we were together. That's our argument, Nicole agreed. Inheritance received after separation isn't marital property. But it gets messy if he can prove you knew about it or had access before he left. I didn't. Dr. Monroe can testify I had no idea. Good. Let me handle this motion. In the meantime, keep the inheritance quiet. Don't make any large purchases. Don't change your lifestyle in obvious ways. As far as Jerome knows, you're just a designer with a good lawyer. They can, the lawyer said quietly. I've reviewed their evidence. You need to take this deal. Where did you get all this? Jerome demanded, looking at Simone. The lawyers, the investigators, you couldn't afford any of this a week ago. How? That's none of your concern, Simone said calmly. Do you accept the terms or not? Jerome looked at her, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in years. I don't understand. You were broke. In debt. How did you? Sign the papers, Jerome, Simone interrupted. Or we'll see you in court and the police station. He signed. Everything, every document, every waiver. His hands shook the whole time. As he stood to leave, he tried one last manipulation. Simone, I know I made mistakes, but we were married for 8 years. That has to mean something. Maybe we could. No, Simone said firmly. We're done. You're done. Take the deal and be grateful you're not going to prison. After he left, Nicole allowed herself a smile. That went better than expected. It's not about revenge, Simone said, surprising herself with the truth of it. It's about justice. About making sure he can't hurt anyone else the way he hurt me. That night, alone in Helena's house, Simone sat in the library and read more of her mother's journals. She found an entry from 15 years ago that made her pause. I spoke with a therapist today about letting go, Helena had written. She asked if I was ready to accept that I might never find Simone. I told her no. I will never stop looking. But I also realized something. My search for her can't be about what I lost. It has to be about building something better. If I can create hospitals that help people, medical programs that save lives, then even if Simone never comes home, some good came from my pain. That's not letting go. That's transforming grief into purpose. Simone closed the journal and looked around the beautiful library, at the life Helena had built, at the legacy she'd left behind. Her mother had taken unimaginable pain and created something meaningful from it. And now Simone would do the same. She'd take Jerome's betrayal and the destruction of her marriage and transform it into something better. Not through revenge, but through building a new life that honored Helena's memory. She pulled out her laptop and started making plans. First, relocate the business to the building Helena had owned. Second, rebuild her client base with honesty and excellent work. Third, learn everything she could about running hospitals and helping people. Jerome had tried to destroy her. Instead, he'd set her free to become who she was always meant to be. Simone moved into Helena's downtown office building on a Monday morning, exactly 3 weeks after the accident. The suite was on the third floor with large windows overlooking the city. She hired movers to retrieve her equipment from the old office before Jerome could sell anything else. He showed up this morning looking for computers, Tony reported via phone. Found the place empty. I have surveillance footage if you want to see his reaction. No, Simone said, arranging her design equipment in the new space. I don't need to see it. I just need to move forward. But moving forward was complicated. That afternoon, Nicole called with news about Jerome's next move. He's filed a new motion, the lawyer said, claiming you somehow hid assets from him during the marriage and now you're using those assets to unfairly advantage yourself in the divorce. That's ridiculous. I didn't even know about the inheritance until after he left me. I know. But his lawyer is arguing that the timing is suspicious. They're demanding full financial disclosure from you, trying to prove the inheritance existed before the separation. Simone thought about this. They don't know when Helena died? It's public record that she died 6 months ago. But the inheritance was kept private. Only the board and legal team knew there was a daughter. We've kept your identity quiet. So Jerome is fishing, Simone realized. Trying to figure out where my resources came from? Exactly. And if he finds out you inherited millions, he'll claim he's entitled to half since you were married when Helena died. Simone leaned back in her new office chair, thinking strategically. But I didn't know about the inheritance. I had no access to it. I was still living on my design income when we were together. That's our argument, Nicole agreed. Inheritance received after separation isn't marital property. But it gets messy if he can prove you knew about it or had access before he left. I didn't. Dr. Monroe can testify I had no idea. Good. Let me handle this motion. In the meantime, keep the inheritance quiet. Don't make any large purchases. Don't change your lifestyle in obvious ways. As far as Jerome knows, you're just a designer with a good lawyer. After the call, Simone reviewed her business accounts. The design company was actually in better shape than she'd realized. Once she'd removed Jerome's unauthorized access, she discovered several pending payments from old clients. With the stolen equipment returned and her reputation intact with loyal clients, she could rebuild. She spent the afternoon reaching out to former contacts, apologizing for any delays caused by personal circumstances, and offering special rates for their patients. The response was overwhelmingly positive. I heard your husband was causing problems, one client wrote back. Glad to see you're back in control. When can you start on our spring campaign? By the end of the week, Simone had 6 new contracts and 3 old clients returning. It wasn't the empire Helena had built, but it was hers, earned through her own talent and hard work. Dr. Monroe stopped by the office on Friday with lunch. You're looking better, he observed. I feel better, Simone admitted. Productive. Like I'm building something instead of just surviving. Helena would be proud. He set out containers of Thai food. I wanted to talk to you about the hospitals. The board is planning an expansion meeting next month. They'd like you to attend. I don't know anything about running hospitals. You don't need to. You need to understand the vision and make decisions about direction. The board handles operations. He paused. Helena left detailed notes about what she wanted to do with the medical centers. Community health programs, trauma care, addiction services. She had plans for a foundation. A foundation? To help women in crisis. She always said that if someone had helped your birth mother when you were kidnapped, maybe things would have been different. She wanted to create support systems so other women wouldn't feel desperate enough to make terrible choices. Simone thought about the woman who'd raised her, the one who'd stolen her because she couldn't cope with losing a baby. That would have been good, she said quietly. My mother who raised me, she needed help. She was so sad sometimes. Maybe if she'd had support. Exactly. Helena understood that pain. She wanted to transform it into help for others. Dr. Monroe opened his laptop. I brought Helena's foundation proposal. I thought you might want to see it. The document was comprehensive. Helena had outlined programs for mental health support, financial assistance for medical bills, job training, childcare services. Everything designed to help women who were struggling, to give them options beyond desperation. The funding is already allocated, Dr. Monroe explained. $10 million from the estate set aside specifically for this. She just needed someone to launch it. When did she write this? 2 years ago. After she got her cancer diagnosis. She said if she couldn't find you in life, at least she could help other families stay together. Simone read through the proposal, seeing her mother's heart in every line. I want to do this, she decided. Launch the foundation in her name. I was hoping you'd say that. Dr. Monroe smiled. I'll set up a meeting with the foundation attorneys. We can have this running by summer. They ate lunch discussing possibilities. For the first time since the accident, Simone felt excited about the future instead of just afraid of the present. That excitement dimmed when she returned to Helena's house that evening and found Jerome's car in the driveway. He was waiting on the front steps, looking agitated. Simone pulled out her phone, ready to call security, but Jerome held up his hands. "Please, just let me talk to you for 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." "You need to leave," Simone said firmly. "Our lawyers are handling everything." "I know, but Simone, this is crazy. These fraud charges, the criminal accusations, I made mistakes, okay? I admit that. But we can work this out without lawyers and courts and all this drama." "Drama?" Simone stayed by her car, maintaining distance. "You tried to kill me, Jerome. You cut my brake line." "I didn't. I would never." That email was taken out of context. "I was just venting, being dramatic. I didn't actually do anything to your car. The mechanic says otherwise. The police report says otherwise." Jerome ran his hands through his hair, frustration evident. "Fine. Let's say I did do some things I shouldn't have. I'm willing to make it right. We can settle this quietly. I'll give you the business back, we split the debts, and we both move on." "I'm not splitting anything with you," Simone said. "You stole from me for 2 years. You destroyed my reputation. You abandoned me in a hospital bed. Because I was confused. Because Candace was in my ear telling me, 'Look, that's over now.' She left me when she found out there wasn't any money. She was just using me." The irony of him being used wasn't lost on Simone. "I don't care about your relationship with Candace. I care that you systematically defrauded me, that you tried to kill me, and that you're now trying to manipulate me into letting you off easy." "I'm not trying to manipulate you. I'm trying to be reasonable." Jerome stepped toward her and Simone backed up. "Where are you getting the money for these lawyers? For investigators? You couldn't afford rent 3 weeks ago and now you're living in this mansion?" So that was it. He'd found out about the house, was trying to piece together her resources. "That's none of your business," Simone said. "It is if you hid money during our marriage. If you had assets you didn't disclose." "I didn't hide anything. I was broke when you left me, remember? You made sure of that." "Then where?" "Sign the settlement papers, Jerome. Take the deal and go away." "What if I don't?" His tone shifted, becoming harder. "What if I fight this? Drag it out in court, make everything public? How will that look for your new life, all your secrets coming out?" Simone pulled out her phone and pressed record. "Are you threatening me?" Jerome realized his mistake. "No. I'm just saying that court gets messy. Things come out. Wouldn't it be better to settle quietly? The offer is on the table. You have until Monday to accept it. After that, we file criminal charges and I don't care what comes out in court." She walked past him to the front door. Jerome called after her, "You're different." Harder. "I don't even recognize you." Simone turned back. "Good. The person you knew let you walk all over her. Let you steal and lie and manipulate. That person is gone. This is who I am now." Inside, she locked the door and called Nicole immediately. "He was here," she said. "At the house. Trying to intimidate me into a better settlement." "Did he threaten you?" "I recorded the conversation. He didn't explicitly threaten, but the implication was clear." "Send me the recording. This is harassment. We can add it to the case." Nicole paused. "Simone, I think it's time to go on the offensive. He's not going to settle voluntarily. He's going to fight until we force his hand. What do you suggest?" "We file the criminal complaint for attempted murder. Let the police investigate. The threat of prison time will make him more willing to settle the civil case." Simone thought about this. Part of her wanted to avoid more drama, to just make Jerome go away. But another part, the part that was reading Helena's journals about never giving up, knew that letting Jerome intimidate her would be a betrayal of everything she was building. "Do it," she decided. "File the complaint. If he wants a fight, we'll give him one." "Good. I'll file Monday morning." Nicole sounded satisfied. "And Simone? Change your locks. Install security cameras. I don't trust him not to escalate." After the call, Simone walked through Helena's house, thinking about safety and strategy. She called a security company and had a full system installed the next day. Cameras, motion sensors, reinforced locks. Dr. Monroe came by to check on her and approved of the security measures. "Helena had similar systems installed," he said. "After you were taken, she was always worried about safety." They sat in the library and Dr. Monroe told her more stories about Helena. How she'd work 18-hour days building the hospitals. How she'd personally interview every doctor and nurse. How she'd sit with patients sometimes just talking because she knew how lonely illness could be. She was lonely too, Dr. Monroe admitted. She had colleagues and friends but no real family. She said once that losing you was like losing a piece of her soul. She learned to live with the absence, but it never stopped hurting. I wish I'd known her, Simone said for the 100th time. You do know her, Dr. Monroe replied. You're living in her house, running her companies, reading her journals. You're learning her heart. That's a kind of knowing. That night, Simone read more of Helena's letters. One from Simone's 16th birthday made her cry. My beautiful daughter, Helena had written. Today you turned 16. I imagine you learning to drive, going to prom, dreaming about your future. I wonder if you look like me. I wonder if you have my stubbornness or my laugh. I wonder if you're happy. I hope whoever has you is kind. I hope they know what a precious gift they have. I would give everything I own, everything I've built, just to see your face one more time. Just to tell you that you are loved. That you were always loved. That not a single day has passed when I didn't think of you and wish you home. Simone fell asleep that night with the letter on her chest, feeling connected to a woman she'd never met but who'd loved her more than Jerome ever had. The criminal complaint was filed Monday morning. By noon, the police had contacted Jerome for questioning. By evening, his lawyer called Nicole begging for a settlement meeting. He'll take your terms, the lawyer said. All of them. He just wants this over. Too late, Nicole replied. The criminal process is underway. He can settle the civil case, but the state is handling the attempted murder charge now. Simone felt a grim satisfaction. Justice was slow but it was coming. And while Jerome panicked about police investigations and criminal charges, she was building a new life. A life that honored Helena's memory. A life that would help other women escape the kind of manipulation she'd experienced. A life that proved some good could come from pain. Jerome had meant to destroy her. Instead, he'd freed her to become someone stronger, someone who could make a real difference. And that, Simone thought, was the best revenge of all. The police investigation moved faster than Simone expected. Detective Rachel Morrison, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, came to interview her 3 days after the complaint was filed. I've reviewed the mechanic's report on your car, Detective Morrison said, sitting across from Simone in Nicole's office. The brake line was definitely tampered with. The cut was clean, deliberate. Someone knew what they were doing. Jerome worked as a mechanic in college, Simone offered. He always handled basic car maintenance for us. Detective Morrison made notes. And this email where he mentions the car crash I've been planning, do you have the original? Nicole pulled it up on her laptop. Detective Morrison read it carefully, then cross-referenced it with other emails in the thread. This is premeditation, she said. Combined with the physical evidence and his financial motive, the life insurance policy you mentioned, this builds a strong case. What happens now? Simone asked. We execute a warrant for his electronic devices, interview witnesses, build the timeline. If everything holds up, we'll present it to the DA for charges. Detective Morrison looked at Simone seriously. I have to warn you, this process can take months. And it won't be easy. His defense will try to paint you as vindictive, claim the email was a joke, challenge the mechanic's findings. I understand, Simone said. But I need to do this. Not just for me but for anyone else he might hurt. Good. We need victims willing to follow through. Detective Morrison stood. I'll be in touch as the investigation progresses. After she left, Nicole reviewed the civil case. Jerome signed the settlement agreement this morning. He's returning the business, the money, everything. The divorce will be final in 60 days. Just like that. Simone felt oddly flat. She'd expected to feel triumphant, but mostly she just felt tired. Just like that. The criminal case is separate, that's between him and the state now. But civilly you're done with him. Simone nodded slowly. What about Candace? What about her? Can we go after her for the money Jerome gave her? For her role in the fraud? Nicole considered this. We could file a civil suit for return of stolen funds. Tony's evidence shows Jerome gave her at least $35,000 of your money. We could argue she knew or should have known it was obtained through fraud. Do it, Simone decided. I don't want revenge on her, but she shouldn't get to keep money that was stolen from me. Over the next week, Simone split her time between rebuilding her design business and learning about her inherited empire. Thomas Chin, Helena's CFO, became her guide to the financial side. Monroe Medical Center is the flagship, he explained, walking her through spreadsheets. But Helena's real genius was in the investments. She used hospital profits to fund medical startups, then helped them grow. She owned pieces of 3 pharmaceutical companies, 2 medical device manufacturers, and a telemedicine platform. How much are those investments worth? About 18 million, give or take. The real estate holdings, the apartment buildings, office spaces, those are worth another 12 million. The hospitals themselves, if we sold them, probably 15 million. But Helena never wanted to sell. She wanted to build. Simone studied the numbers, overwhelmed by the responsibility. What if I mess this up? What if I make bad decisions and destroy what she built? You won't, Thomas said confidently. Helena left detailed instructions for everything. And you have the board, me, Dr. Monroe, we're all here to help. You don't have to do this alone. That afternoon, Simone attended her first board meeting as the official owner of Monroe Medical Center. The board members were welcoming and patient, explaining policies and answering her questions. We'd like to move forward with Helena's mental health initiative, Dr. Kim said. The one she planned before she passed. We have the funding and the facility plan. We just need your approval. Simone reviewed the proposal. It was comprehensive. A dedicated trauma care center, therapy programs, support groups, all provided on a sliding scale based on ability to pay. This is exactly what my mother wanted, she said, feeling the rightness of it. Approved. When can we start? We can break ground in 2 months if you're ready to commit, Dr. Kim replied. I'm ready. Let's do this in her memory. The board members smiled, clearly pleased. After the meeting, Dr. Monroe pulled her aside. You're doing well, he said. Helena would be so proud of how you're stepping into this. I feel like I'm pretending, Simone admitted. Like any minute someone will realize I don't actually know what I'm doing. That's called imposter syndrome, and every leader feels it sometimes. But you're making good decisions. You're listening to experts. You're honoring Helena's vision while adding your own perspective. That's exactly what this needs. Tony delivered his final report on Jerome's business activities that evening. Simone read through it in Helena's library, anger building with each page. Jerome had contacted 23 of her clients, stolen 11 accounts, and badmouthed her to at least 30 professionals in her industry. He'd sold equipment worth $12,000 and pocketed the cash. He'd used her business name to bid on projects he couldn't deliver, damaging her reputation. But here's the good news, Tony said over the phone. 15 of those clients have agreed to testify if needed. They kept records of his calls, his emails, his offers. Several of them are angry on your behalf and want to help. That's more than I expected, Simone said. You built genuine relationships with these people. They respected your work and were offended by what Jerome did. That speaks well of you as a businessperson. After the call, Simone started reaching out to clients personally. She apologized for any inconvenience, assured them Jerome no longer had any connection to her business, and offered to make things right. The responses were overwhelmingly supportive. We always worked with you, not him, one client wrote. We're glad you're back in control. Another said, your ex-husband is a piece of work. We're happy to help in any way we can. By the end of the month, Simone had recovered 10 of the 11 stolen accounts and had 5 new clients from referrals. Her business was growing stronger, built on her own talent and integrity. She moved her personal life forward too. She hired an interior designer to help her make Helena's house feel like her own while still honoring her mother's aesthetic. She joined a gym near the estate, started physical therapy for her lingering injuries, and began building a new routine. Dr. Monroe became a regular presence in her life. He'd stop by for coffee, share stories about Helena, help her navigate the complex world she'd inherited. He never overstepped, never pushed, but he was always there when she needed guidance. You remind me of her, he said one evening as they sat in the garden. The way you approach problems. Your determination to do the right thing even when it's hard. I wish I'd known her, Simone said, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of purple and gold. You're getting to know her now, Dr. Monroe replied. Through her work, her letters, the legacy she left. That's a kind of knowing. The criminal case against Jerome moved slowly but steadily. Detective Morrison kept Simone updated on progress. Witness interviews, forensic analysis of the car, review of email evidence. His lawyer is trying to negotiate, the detective said in early May. Offering a plea deal if we drop the attempted murder charge down to reckless endangerment. What do you think? Simone asked. I think we have a strong case for attempted murder. But trials are unpredictable. A plea guarantees he faces consequences, but they'd be less severe. I'll think about it, Simone said. She discussed it with Dr. Monroe that evening. What would Helena do? Helena believed in justice, But she was also pragmatic, Dr. Monroe replied. She'd want to make sure he couldn't hurt anyone else, but she wouldn't need him to suffer beyond what was necessary. Simone thought about that. She didn't want Jerome to suffer, she wanted him to face consequences and be stopped from hurting others. A plea deal would do that. Tell Detective Morrison I'll accept a reasonable plea, she decided. As long as it includes prison time and he can never come near me again. The plea was negotiated over the next 2 weeks. Jerome would plead guilty to assault and fraud charges, serve 3 years in prison, and have a permanent restraining order against Simone. He'd also have to pay restitution for the medical bills and stolen money. It wasn't as severe as attempted murder charges might have brought, but it was justice. And Simone could move forward knowing he was being held accountable. The civil suit against Candace settled out of court. She agreed to return $20,000, all she had left of what Jerome had given her. Simone donated it to the Helena Ashford Foundation, feeling like that was a fitting use for stolen money. By June, 6 months after the accident that had changed everything, Simone's life looked completely different. She had a thriving business, a beautiful home, and a purpose that went beyond just surviving. She stood in the hospital where it all began, looking at the plaque being installed. The Helena Ashford Trauma and Wellness Center, dedicated to helping those in crisis find hope. Dr. Monroe stood beside her, proud. She'd love this. I hope so, Simone said. I hope wherever she is, she knows I'm trying to honor her legacy. She knows, Dr. Monroe said with certainty. She always knew you'd be remarkable. She just wished she could see it herself. Simone thought about all the letters, all the birthday presents, all the years of hope and waiting. Helena had loved her without knowing her, had built an empire in the faith that someday they'd be reunited. They hadn't reunited in life. But Simone was determined to make sure they were connected through purpose, through helping others, through the legacy of love that Helena had left behind. Jerome had tried to destroy her. Instead, he'd led her to discover who she really was, not just a survivor but someone with the power and resources to make a real difference. And that, Simone realized, was worth every moment of pain it had taken to get here. Chapter 7. The Confrontation. Architected confrontation scene showcasing protagonist's resilience and antagonist's downfall. The user wants Chapter 7 to continue the story with confrontation. Based on my outline, this is where Jerome shows up trying to manipulate Simone, not knowing about her inheritance. He tries to get her to drop charges. She needs to stay strong, record conversations, and send him away. The chapter should show her growing confidence and Jerome's desperation. He points. Jerome doesn't know about inheritance. He tries manipulation. Simone stays calm and strong. Recordings add to evidence. Jerome realizes he's lost. No reconciliation. Simone's transformation is evident. I need to make this about 1,000 words and maintain the tone of empowerment without flowery language. Simone hadn't been back to her old apartment since the accident. She'd kept the lease active but lived entirely at Helena's estate. The apartment held too many painful memories, Jerome's lies, her oblivious trust, the life she'd thought was real but wasn't. Now, 3 weeks before Jerome's sentencing, she needed to pack up the last of her belongings. Nicole had advised her to bring someone along, but Simone wanted to do this alone. She needed to close this chapter herself. She was boxing up books when she heard the key turn in the lock. Her heart jumped. She'd changed the locks, hadn't she? But then she remembered Jerome had made copies of everything, probably gave one to the landlord with some story. He walked in looking worse than she'd ever seen him. Unshaven, clothes rumpled, eyes red-rimmed. He stopped when he saw her, surprise flickering across his face. "Simone," he said. "I didn't think you'd be here." "My beautiful daughter," Helena had written. "Today you turn 16. I imagine you learning to drive, going to prom, dreaming about your future. I wonder if you look like me. I wonder if you have my stubbornness or my laugh. I wonder if you're happy. I hope whoever has you is kind. I hope they know what a precious gift they have. I would give everything I own, everything I've built, just to see your face one more time. Just to tell you that you are loved. That you were always loved. That not a single day has passed when I didn't think of you and wish you home." Simone fell asleep that night with the letter on her chest, feeling connected to a woman she'd never met but who'd loved her more than Jerome ever had. The criminal complaint was filed Monday morning. By noon, the police had contacted Jerome for questioning. By evening, his lawyer called Nicole begging for a settlement meeting. "He'll take your terms," the lawyer said. "All of them. He just wants this over." "Too late," Nicole replied. "The criminal process is underway. He can settle the civil case, but the state is handling the attempted murder charge now. Simone felt a grim satisfaction. Justice was slow, but it was coming. And while Jerome panicked about police investigations and criminal charges, she was building a new life. A life that honored Helena's memory. A life that would help other women escape the kind of manipulation she'd experienced. A life that proved some good could come from pain. Jerome had meant to destroy her. Instead, he'd freed her to become someone stronger, someone who could make a real difference. And that, Simone thought, was the best revenge of all. The police investigation moved faster than Simone expected. Detective Rachel Morrison, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, came to interview her 3 days after the complaint was filed. "I've reviewed the mechanic's report on your car," Detective Morrison said, sitting across from Simone in Nicole's office. "The brake line was definitely tampered with. The cut was clean, deliberate. Someone knew what they were doing." "Jerome worked as a mechanic in college," Simone offered. "He always handled basic car maintenance for us." Detective Morrison made notes. "And this email where he mentions the car crash I've been planning, do you have the original?" Nicole pulled it up on her laptop. Detective Morrison read it carefully, then cross-referenced it with other emails in the thread. "This is premeditation," she said. "Combined with the physical evidence and his financial motive, the life insurance policy you mentioned, this builds a strong case." "What happens now?" Simone asked. "We execute a warrant for his electronic devices, interview witnesses, build the timeline. If everything holds up, we'll present it to the DA for charges." Detective Morrison looked at Simone seriously. "I have to warn you, this process can take months. And it won't be easy. His defense will try to paint you as vindictive, claim the email was a joke, challenge the mechanic's findings." "I understand," Simone said. "But I need to do this. Not just for me but for anyone else he might hurt." "Good. We need victims willing to follow through." Detective Morrison stood. "I'll be in touch as the investigation progresses." After she left, Nicole reviewed the civil case. "Jerome signed the settlement agreement this morning. He's returning the business, the money, everything. The divorce will be final in 60 days. Just like that." Simone felt oddly flat. She'd expected to feel triumphant, but mostly she just felt tired. Just like that. "The criminal case is separate, that's between him and the state now. But civilly you're done with him." Simone nodded slowly. "What about Candace? What about her? Can we go after her for the money Jerome gave her? For her role in the fraud?" Nicole considered this. "We could file a civil suit for return of stolen funds. Tony's evidence shows Jerome gave her at least $35,000 of your money. We could argue she knew or should have known it was obtained through fraud." "Do it," Simone decided. "I don't want revenge on her, but she shouldn't get to keep money that was stolen from me." Over the next week, Simone split her time between rebuilding her design business and learning about her inherited empire. Thomas Chin, Helena's CFO, became her guide to the financial side. "Monroe Medical Center is the flagship," he explained, walking her through spreadsheets. But Helena's real genius was in the investments. She used hospital profits to fund medical startups, then helped them grow. She owned pieces of 3 pharmaceutical companies, 2 medical device manufacturers, and a telemedicine platform. How much are those investments worth? About 18 million, give or take. The real estate holdings, the apartment buildings, office spaces, those are worth another 12 million. The hospitals themselves, if we sold them, probably 15 million. But Helena never wanted to sell. She wanted to build. Simone studied the numbers, overwhelmed by the responsibility. What if I mess this up? What if I make bad decisions and destroy what she built? "You won't," Thomas said confidently. Helena left detailed instructions for everything. "And you have the board, me, Dr. Monroe, we're all here to help. You don't have to do this alone." That afternoon, Simone attended her first board meeting as the official owner of Monroe Medical Center. The board members were welcoming and patient, explaining policies and answering her questions. "We'd like to move forward with Helena's mental health initiative," Dr. Kim said. "The one she planned before she passed. We have the funding and the facility plan. We just need your approval." Simone reviewed the proposal. It was comprehensive: a dedicated trauma care center, therapy programs, support groups, all provided on a sliding scale based on ability to pay. "This is exactly what my mother wanted," she said, feeling the rightness of it. "Approved. When can we start?" "We can break ground in 2 months if you're ready to commit," Dr. Kim replied. "I'm ready. Let's do this in her memory." The board members smiled, clearly pleased. After the meeting, Dr. Monroe pulled her aside. "You're doing well," he said. "Helena would be so proud of how you're stepping into this." "I feel like I'm pretending," Simone admitted. "Like any minute someone will realize I don't actually know what I'm doing. That's called imposter syndrome, and every leader feels it sometimes. But you're making good decisions. You're listening to experts. You're honoring Helena's vision while adding your own perspective. That's exactly what this needs." Tony delivered his final report on Jerome's business activities that evening. Simone read through it in Helena's library, anger building with each page. Jerome had contacted 23 of her clients, stolen 11 accounts, and badmouthed her to at least 30 professionals in her industry. He'd sold equipment worth $12,000 and pocketed the cash. He'd used her business name to bid on projects he couldn't deliver, damaging her reputation. "But here's the good news," Tony said over the phone. 15 of those clients have agreed to testify if needed. They kept records of his calls, his emails, his offers. Several of them are angry on your behalf and want to help. "That's more than I expected," Simone said. "You built genuine relationships with these people. They respected your work and were offended by what Jerome did. That speaks well of you as a businessperson." After the call, Simone started reaching out to clients personally. She apologized for any inconvenience, assured them Jerome no longer had any connection to her business, and offered to make things right. The responses were overwhelmingly supportive. "We always worked with you, not him," one client wrote. "We're glad you're back in control." Another said, "Your ex-husband is a piece of work. We're happy to help in any way we can." By the end of the month, Simone had recovered 10 of the 11 stolen accounts and had 5 new clients from referrals. Her business was growing stronger, built on her own talent and integrity. She moved her personal life forward too. She hired an interior designer to help her make Helena's house feel like her own while still honoring her mother's aesthetic. She joined a gym near the estate, started physical therapy for her lingering injuries, and began building a new routine. Dr. Monroe became a regular presence in her life. He'd stop by for coffee, share stories about Helena, help her navigate the complex world she'd inherited. He never overstepped, never pushed, but he was always there when she needed guidance. "You remind me of her," he said one evening as they sat in the garden. "The way you approach problems. Your determination to do the right thing even when it's hard." "I wish I'd known her," Simone said, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of purple and gold. "You're getting to know her now," Dr. Monroe replied. "Through her work, her letters, the legacy she left. That's a kind of knowing." The criminal case against Jerome moved slowly but steadily. Detective Morrison kept Simone updated on progress. Witness interviews, forensic analysis of the car, review of email evidence. "His lawyer is trying to negotiate," the detective said in early May. "Offering a plea deal if we drop the attempted murder charge down to reckless endangerment." "What do you think?" Simone asked. "I think we have a strong case for attempted murder. But trials are unpredictable. A plea guarantees he faces consequences, but they'd be less severe." "I'll think about it," Simone said. She discussed it with Dr. Monroe that evening. What would Helena do? Helena believed in justice, but she was also pragmatic, Dr. Monroe replied. She'd want to make sure he couldn't hurt anyone else, but she wouldn't need him to suffer beyond what was necessary. Simone thought about that. She didn't want Jerome to suffer, she wanted him to face consequences and be stopped from hurting others. A plea deal would do that. "Tell Detective Morrison I'll accept a reasonable plea," she decided. "As long as it includes prison time and he can never come near me again." The plea was negotiated over the next 2 weeks. Jerome would plead guilty to assault and fraud charges, serve 3 years in prison, and have a permanent restraining order against Simone. He'd also have to pay restitution for the medical bills and stolen money. It wasn't as severe as attempted murder charges might have brought, but it was justice. And Simone could move forward knowing he was being held accountable. The civil suit against Candace settled out of court. She agreed to return $20,000, all she had left of what Jerome had given her. Simone donated it to the Helena Ashford Foundation, feeling like that was a fitting use for stolen money. By June, 6 months after the accident that had changed everything, Simone's life looked completely different. She had a thriving business, a beautiful home, and a purpose that went beyond just surviving. She stood in the hospital where it all began, looking at the plaque being installed, the Helena Ashford Trauma and Wellness Center, dedicated to helping those in crisis find hope. Dr. Monroe stood beside her, proud. She'd love this. I hope so, Simone said. I hope wherever she is, she knows I'm trying to honor her legacy. She knows, Dr. Monroe said with certainty. She always knew you'd be remarkable. She just wished she could see it herself. Simone thought about all the letters, all the birthday presents, all the years of hope and waiting. Helena had loved her without knowing her, had built an empire in the faith that someday they'd be reunited. They hadn't reunited in life. But Simone was determined to make sure they were connected through purpose, through helping others, through the legacy of love that Helena had left behind. Jerome had tried to destroy her. Instead, he'd led her to discover who she really was, not just a survivor but someone with the power and resources to make a real difference. And that, Simone realized, was worth every moment of pain it had taken to get here. Chapter 7. The Confrontation. Architected confrontation scene showcasing protagonist's resilience and antagonist's downfall. The user wants Chapter 7 to continue the story with confrontation. Based on my outline, this is where Jerome shows up trying to manipulate Simone, not knowing about her inheritance. He tries to get her to drop charges. She needs to stay strong, record conversations, and send him away. The chapter should show her growing confidence and Jerome's desperation. Key points. Jerome doesn't know about inheritance. He tries manipulation. Simone stays calm and strong. Recordings add to evidence. Jerome realizes he's lost. No reconciliation. Simone's transformation is evident. I need to make this about 1,000 words and maintain the tone of empowerment without flowery language. Simone hadn't been back to her old apartment since the accident. She'd kept the lease active but lived entirely at Helena's estate. The apartment held too many painful memories, Jerome's lies, her oblivious trust, the life she'd thought was real but wasn't. Now, 3 weeks before Jerome's sentencing, she needed to pack up the last of her belongings. Nicole had advised her to bring someone along, but Simone wanted to do this alone. She needed to close this chapter herself. She was boxing up books when she heard the key turn in the lock. Her heart jumped. She'd changed the locks, hadn't she? But then she remembered Jerome had made copies of everything, probably gave one to the landlord with some story. He walked in looking worse than she'd ever seen him. Unshaven, clothes rumpled, eyes red-rimmed. He stopped when he saw her, surprise flickering across his face. "Simone," he said. "I didn't think you'd be here." "This is still my apartment," she replied, pulling out her phone and starting the voice recorder. "You're not supposed to be here, Jerome. There's a restraining order." "I know, but I needed to talk to you. Just hear me out, please. We have nothing to discuss. Your lawyer can contact my lawyer." Jerome moved into the room and Simone positioned herself near the door. She wasn't afraid of him anymore, but she was cautious. "I made mistakes," he said, his voice taking on that pleading tone she used to fall for. "Terrible mistakes. I was stupid and selfish and I hurt you. But Simone, 3 years in prison? That's my life. My career. Everything." "You tried to kill me," Simone said flatly. 3 years is lenient. I didn't mean for you to get hurt. I don't know what I wanted. I was confused, Candace was pressuring me, everything got out of control. You planned it for months. I saw the emails. Those were just talk, just me being dramatic. You know how I get when I'm stressed." He ran his hands through his hair in that gesture she'd once found endearing. Now it just looked manipulative. "I'm begging you. Talk to the DA. Tell them you want leniency. They'll listen to you." "Why would I do that?" "Because we were married. Because we had good times once. Because you're not a cruel person and sending me to prison is cruel." Simone almost laughed. "You abandoned me in a hospital bed. You stole my money, destroyed my business reputation and cut my break line. And I'm the cruel one? I'm sorry. I've said I'm sorry 100 times. What more do you want from me? I want you to accept responsibility and face the consequences. That's what adults do when they make choices." Jerome's expression shifted, frustration replacing the pleading. "Where's all this coming from? This tough act?" The Simone I knew would have forgiven me by now. She was soft, understanding. "The Simone you knew was a doormat," Simone corrected. "She let you walk all over her because she thought that's what love meant. She's gone. I'm what's left, and I don't forgive people who try to murder me. It wasn't murder. It was an accident. The brakes failed, that happens. The mechanic says otherwise. The police say otherwise. Stop lying, Jerome. It's over." He looked at her with something like genuine confusion. "Who are you? Really, who are you now? You've got fancy lawyers, private investigators, you're living in some mansion. Where did all this come from?" "None of your business." It is if you were hiding money during our marriage. If you had family wealth you never told me about. I didn't hide anything. I was broke when you left me, remember? You made sure of that. Then who's paying for all this? Jerome's voice rose. Nicole Bradford doesn't work for free. That house you're in, the security cameras, someone's backing you. Who is it? Simone smiled slightly. You really can't stand not knowing, can you? You thought you had me all figured out. Thought I'd be destroyed without you. And now you can't understand how I'm not just surviving but thriving. I deserve to know. You deserve prison, Simone said. And that's what you're getting. Now get out of my apartment before I call the police about the restraining order violation. Jerome's face darkened. You think you're so smart now. So tough. But you're making a mistake. I could make things difficult for you. Court testimonies can go a lot of ways. I could tell people things. Are you threatening me again? Simone held up her phone, showing the recording app. Because I'm recording this entire conversation. Please keep talking about how you're going to retaliate against the victim of your crimes. I'm sure the DA will love to hear it. Jerome went pale. You're recording me? Every word. Just like I recorded your threats at the house. Just like I've documented every contact you've attempted in violation of the restraining order. You've changed, Jerome said bitterly. You used to trust me. You used to be trustworthy. Or maybe you never were and I was just too blind to see it. Simone moved toward the door. We're done here. Leave now or I call the police. Candace was right about you, Jerome spat. She said you were boring, cold, too focused on work to be a real wife. I should have listened to her from the start. Candace is currently repaying stolen money and facing fraud charges of her own, Simone replied. Maybe not the best judge of character. Jerome stared at her, looking for the woman he used to control. But that woman was gone, replaced by someone who knew her worth and wouldn't accept less than she deserved. I loved you, he said quietly, one last manipulation attempt. No, you didn't, Simone said. You loved what I could give you. My money, my business, my blind trust. You never loved me as a person. And honestly, Jerome, I don't think I loved you either. I loved the idea of you, the life I thought we were building. But none of it was real. So that's it? 8 years of marriage and you feel nothing? I feel relieved, Simone said honestly. Relieved that I found out who you really were before you actually succeeded in killing me. Relieved that I'm free to build a real life with real people who respect me. Relieved that I never have to see you again after your sentencing. She opened the apartment door. Get out, Jerome. This is your last warning. He walked to the door, paused. You'll regret this. When you're alone and you realize what you gave up. I gave up nothing worth keeping, Simone interrupted. Goodbye, Jerome. After he left, she locked the door and leaned against it, heart pounding. She wasn't scared, she was exhilarated. She'd faced him down, hadn't crumbled or softened or given him anything he wanted. She called Nicole and sent the recording. He violated the restraining order, the lawyer said after listening. And threatened you on tape. I'm sending this to Detective Morrison and the DA. This will factor into his sentencing. Good, Simone said. He needs to understand he can't intimidate me anymore. That evening, Dr. Monroe came by to check on her. She told him about the confrontation. You handled it perfectly, he said. Helena would have been proud. She never let anyone push her around either. It felt good, Simone admitted. Standing up for myself. Not backing down. That's growth. That's healing. Dr. Monroe pulled out his tablet. Speaking of which, I wanted to show you something. The trauma center opens next month. The board wants you to speak at the opening ceremony. Simone looked at the program. There was a ribbon cutting, tours, a reception. And a keynote speech spot with her name on it. I'm not a public speaker, she said. You don't have to be. Just tell Helena's story. Tell your story. Explain why this center matters. Simone thought about it. A month ago she'd have said no immediately. But now, after facing Jerome and reclaiming her power, speaking to a crowd didn't seem so impossible. I'll do it, she decided. For Helena. The next few weeks blurred together. Simone finalized the apartment move, closed the last chapter on her old life. Jerome's sentencing came and went. He got 4 years instead of 3 after the judge reviewed the new recording. Simone didn't attend the sentencing. She had better things to do. She threw herself into preparing for the trauma center opening. She read Helena's notes about why mental health care mattered, about supporting people in crisis, about creating safety when the world felt dangerous. And she wrote her speech. Not flowery or dramatic, just honest. About loss and betrayal and finding strength you didn't know you had. About mothers who love from a distance and daughters who discover their worth. The day before the opening, she practiced in Helena's library. Dr. Monroe listened, offering gentle feedback. "Don't be afraid to show emotion," he said. "This story has emotion. Let people see your heart. What if I cry? Then you cry. Authenticity is more powerful than polish." Simone looked at him, this man who'd kept his promise to a dying friend, who'd guided her through the most difficult transformation of her life. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For everything. For finding me, for helping me, for being here." "It's been my honor," Dr. Monroe replied. "Helena asked me to help you, but the truth is you've helped me too. Keeping my promise to her, watching you grow into your power, it's given me purpose I didn't know I needed." There was something in his eyes, something warm and genuine. Not romantic, not yet, but the foundation of something that could become that. Respect. Admiration. Connection. "We should probably get some rest," Simone said, not quite ready to examine those feelings. "Big day tomorrow." "Indeed." Dr. Monroe stood. "You're going to be wonderful. Helena would be so proud." After he left, Simone read one more letter from Helena, dated 3 months before her death. "My dearest Simone, wherever you are. I'm running out of time. The cancer is winning. But I'm not afraid of dying. I'm only afraid of leaving this world without finding you, without telling you how much you were loved. If you're reading this, it means Gabriel found you. It means my search ended successfully, even if I wasn't there to see it. Please know that every day of searching was worth it. Every year of hoping was worth it. You're worth it. You always were. I love you, my daughter. I always have. I always will. Make something beautiful with your life. That's all any mother wants for her child." Simone closed the letter and looked around the library. She was making something beautiful. A new business, a foundation that would help others, a life built on honesty and strength instead of lies and weakness. Jerome had tried to destroy her. Instead, he'd pushed her into becoming exactly who she was meant to be. And tomorrow she'd stand in front of a crowd and tell that story. Not for revenge, but for hope. Not to hurt Jerome, but to help others who'd been hurt. That was the best kind of victory, the kind that built something better instead of just tearing something down. The Helena Ashford Trauma and Wellness Center opened on a bright Saturday morning in early July. Simone stood backstage in the hospital auditorium, watching through the curtain as people filled the seats. Medical professionals, community leaders, donors, press. All here to celebrate Helena's vision. "You ready?" Dr. Monroe asked, adjusting his tie. "No," Simone admitted. "But I'm doing it anyway." The program started with Dr. Kim explaining the center's mission and services. Then Thomas Chin talked about Helena's vision for accessible mental health care. When Simone's name was called, her hands were shaking as she walked to the podium. She looked out at the crowd and saw hundreds of faces waiting expectantly. She found Dr. Monroe in the front row, giving her an encouraging nod. "Good morning," she began, her voice steadier than she felt. "My name is Simone Ashford. 6 months ago, I didn't know that name belonged to me. I was Simone Foster, a graphic designer with a failing marriage and mounting debt. Then I had a car accident and everything changed." She told them about the hospital room, about Dr. Monroe's revelation, about discovering she was the daughter Helena had searched for her entire life. She didn't mention Jerome by name, but she talked about betrayal and abandonment, about hitting rock bottom and having to rebuild. "Helena left me more than money," Simone said, finding her rhythm. "She left me a purpose. She knew what it meant to suffer, to lose something precious, to feel powerless. But she didn't let that suffering define her. She transformed it into something meaningful. Hospitals that help people, programs that save lives, a legacy that continues even though she's gone." The audience was silent, engaged. Simone felt the truth of her words settling into place. This trauma center was Helena's dream. A place where people in crisis can find support without judgment, where mental health care is as accessible as emergency medicine, where no one has to suffer alone. She paused, emotion welling up. "I wish I could have known her in life. But I know her through this work. And I promise to honor her vision by making sure this center helps as many people as possible." The applause was thunderous. Simone returned to her seat, hands still shaking but heart full. Dr. Monroe squeezed her hand briefly. "Perfect," he whispered. After the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Simone gave tours of the facility. The center was beautiful. Bright spaces, comfortable therapy rooms, group meeting areas, a meditation garden. Everything designed to create safety and promote healing. "This is incredible," said one of the donors, a woman in her 60s. "My daughter struggled with trauma after an assault. She had nowhere to turn. If this had existed then. Now it does, Simone said gently. And it will help people like your daughter. The woman hugged her, tears in her eyes. Thank you for continuing Helena's work. Simone met dozens more people throughout the day. Trauma survivors, mental health advocates, medical professionals who'd worked with Helena. Each one had a story about how Helena had helped them or how the center would fill a crucial need. By evening, Simone was exhausted but satisfied. The reception was winding down when Detective Morrison approached. Beautiful event, the detective said. I wanted to give you an update on Jerome's case. He's in prison, Simone said. What else is there? Candace filed charges against him. Turns out he'd been manipulating her too. Promising marriage, making financial commitments he couldn't keep. She's suing for fraud. Simone felt a flicker of sympathy for Candace. I thought she knew what she was doing. She was being used just like you were. Differently but still manipulated. Detective Morrison paused. I wanted to thank you for following through with the case. A lot of victims don't. Your testimony helped us establish a pattern of fraud and manipulation that goes back years. Jerome had other victims before you. Other women? 3 that we know of. Similar patterns: romance, financial manipulation, abandonment when the money ran out. You were the first one brave enough to press charges. The others are coming forward now because of you. Simone processed this information. She thought her situation was unique, but Jerome had done this before. Would have done it again if she hadn't stopped him. I'm glad I pressed charges, she said quietly. If it helps other women avoid what I went through, then it was worth it. After the detective left, Dr. Monroe found Simone standing alone on the rooftop terrace where the reception was being held. You should be proud, he said, joining her at the railing. Today was a huge success. I keep thinking about Helena, Simone admitted. How she spent her whole life looking for me, never knowing if she'd find me. Building all this in case she didn't. She'd be so happy to see you here. To know you're carrying on her work. Do you think she knew? At the end? That you'd find me? Dr. Monroe considered this. I think she hoped. Hope was Helena's defining characteristic. She hoped when it seemed impossible. She believed good things could happen even in the darkest times. Simone turned to look at him. You loved her, didn't you? I did, Dr. Monroe admitted. Not romantically, she made it clear early on that her heart wasn't available. But as a friend, a colleague, someone I deeply admired. Her death left a hole in my life. Finding me helped fill that hole? Finding you gave me purpose. Keeping my promise to her. But getting to know you, Simone, that's been something else entirely. His voice was warm. You're remarkable in your own right. Not just as Helena's daughter. Simone felt heat rise in her cheeks. This was new territory, feelings developing for someone who wasn't Jerome, who saw her as an equal instead of a resource to exploit. Gabriel, she said, using his first name for maybe the 3rd time ever. I'm not ready for anything complicated. My life is still. I know, he interrupted gently. And I'm not suggesting anything. Just acknowledging that you're an impressive person. Whatever happens or doesn't happen between us, I want you to know that. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city lights come on as the sun set. Simone felt something shift inside her. A door opening to possibilities she hadn't considered. The next week brought unexpected news. One of Simone's old clients, a major marketing firm, reached out with a proposal. We've been watching your rebuild, the client said over the phone. The way you've handled your business recovery, the professionalism despite personal challenges. We want to offer you a contract for all our design work. Exclusive partnership, significant retainer. That's generous, Simone said cautiously. What's the catch? No catch. We want reliability and quality. You provide both. Plus, honestly, the way you stood up to your ex-husband impressed our female executives. We want to support businesses run by people with integrity. The contract was substantial, enough to make her design business solidly profitable without dipping into Helena's estate. Simone signed it the next day. You're building something real, Nicole said when Simone told her the news. Not inherited, not given. Earned. It feels good, Simone admitted. To know I can succeed on my own merit. You always could. You just needed to be free of Jerome to see it. That freedom became more apparent every day. Simone woke up without dread. She made decisions without second-guessing herself. She built her business and managed Helena's estate without anyone undermining her. In August, she received a letter from Jerome's mother, a woman she'd rarely spoken to during the marriage. Dear Simone, it read. I want to apologize for my son's actions. I raised him better than this. I taught him to respect women, to be honest, to take responsibility. Somewhere along the way he lost those values. I'm horrified by what he did to you. Please know that he doesn't represent our family's values. I hope you find happiness and peace. You deserve both. Simone was surprised by the letter. She wrote back briefly, thanking Jerome's mother for the kindness and wishing her well. The gesture helped close another loop of anger and resentment. By September, Simone's life had settled into a new rhythm. Morning runs in the estate gardens. Business meetings for her design company. Board meetings at the hospitals. Foundation work at the trauma center. And increasingly, time spent with Gabriel. They had dinner once a week, ostensibly to discuss estate business but increasingly just to enjoy each other's company. They talked about everything: books, medicine, art, their shared love of terrible puns. Gabriel made her laugh in a way Jerome never had, with genuine joy instead of nervous people-pleasing. One evening after a foundation meeting, Gabriel walked Simone to her car in the hospital parking lot. "I have a confession," he said. "These weekly dinners aren't really about estate business anymore." "I know," Simone replied, smiling. "I stopped bringing my business folder 3 weeks ago. So we're just having dinner." "As what? Friends?" "Friends who enjoy each other's company," Simone said carefully. "Maybe more than friends eventually. But not yet. I'm still healing, Gabriel. I'm still figuring out who I am without Jerome's shadow over everything. I understand. And I'm willing to wait. However long it takes." He took her hand briefly, a gentle gesture of connection. "Helena waited 32 years for you. I can wait a few months for you to be ready." Simone squeezed his hand in return, feeling the warmth of genuine affection. Not desperate need or fearful clinging, but simple appreciation for another person who saw her clearly and liked what he saw. "Thank you," she said softly. "For being patient. For being kind. For not pushing." "That's what respect looks like," Gabriel replied. "Genuine respect, not the performance of it." As Simone drove home that night, she thought about the difference between her relationship with Jerome and whatever was developing with Gabriel. Jerome had needed her to be small so he could feel big. Gabriel celebrated her strength and encouraged her growth. That was the kind of relationship worth having. The kind built on equality and mutual respect. The kind Helena would have wanted for her daughter. And someday, when Simone was fully healed and ready, maybe she and Gabriel would explore what they could build together. But for now, friendship and respect were enough. They were more than enough. They were everything Jerome had never given her and everything she'd learned she deserved. 6 months after the trauma center opening, Simone stood in her newly remodeled office watching snow fall gently outside. It was January, 1 full year since the accident that had changed everything. The anniversary had come and gone without fanfare, just a quiet acknowledgement of how far she'd come. Her design business was thriving. The exclusive contract had led to other opportunities, and now she employed 3 junior designers and a project manager. They worked in the suite next to hers in Helena's building, a small but efficient team doing excellent work. Simone. Her assistant, Brianna, knocked on the door. "The board meeting is starting in 20 minutes. Do you need anything before I head out?" "I'm good, thanks. Have a great weekend." After Brianna left, Simone reviewed her notes for the board meeting. Today they were voting on an expansion proposal, opening 2 more trauma centers in underserved areas. The funding was there, the need was clear, but it was a big commitment. At the hospital, she found Gabriel already in the boardroom reviewing documents. He smiled when she entered, that warm, genuine smile that still made her heart skip a little. "Ready to make history?" he asked. "Ready to honor Helena's vision," Simone corrected, but she was smiling too. The board meeting went smoothly. Everyone approved the expansion enthusiastically. After the vote, Dr. Kim pulled Simone aside. "I wanted you to see something," she said, showing Simone her tablet. "This is our impact report from the first 6 months of operation." The numbers were staggering. The trauma center had served over 800 people. Therapy sessions, support groups, crisis interventions. Lives changed, families helped, hope restored. "This is what Helena wanted," Dr. Kim said. "Real impact. Real help. You've made that happen." "We've made it happen," Simone corrected. "Everyone on this team." But driving home that evening, Simone allowed herself to feel proud. She'd taken Helena's dream and made it real. She transformed inheritance into impact, money into meaning. Her phone rang as she pulled into the estate driveway. Nicole's name flashed on the screen. "Good news," the lawyer said when Simone answered. "The divorce is final." You are officially no longer married to Jerome Foster. Simone felt relief wash over her. It's really over? Completely over. You're free, Simone. Free to move forward without any legal ties to that chapter of your life. After the call, Simone sat in her car for a moment, processing. 1 year ago, Jerome had walked out of her hospital room and she thought her life was ending. Now that life was actually ending legally and officially, and she felt nothing but relief. She went inside and found the box of Helena's letters. She pulled out the one marked final letter, to be given when ready. Dr. Monroe had given it to her months ago, but she'd been saving it, waiting for the right moment. This felt like the right moment. She opened it with careful fingers and began to read. My beloved Simone, Helena had written. If you're reading this, Gabriel found you. Thank God. Thank every force in the universe that brought you back into our orbit. I'm sorry I'm not there to see you, to hold you, to tell you in person how much I love you. But I need you to know some things. First, you are enough. Exactly as you are, whatever life you've built, whoever you've become, you are enough. I searched for you because I loved you, not because I expected you to be anything particular. I hope you're happy. I hope whoever raised you loved you well. And I hope you can forgive me for not finding you sooner. Second, the inheritance I'm leaving you isn't a burden, it's a tool. Use it however you see fit. Build something, help people, or just live comfortably and enjoy your life. Whatever you choose is right because it's your choice. Third, and most important, don't live in the past. I spent 32 years looking backward, searching for what I'd lost. Don't do that. Whatever pain you've experienced, whatever losses you've endured, don't let them define your future. Learn from the past, honor it, but don't live there. I loved being your mother, even from a distance. Even without knowing you. That love was real and powerful and it sustained me through everything. I hope you can find that kind of love too. Not necessarily romantic love, though I hope that too. But the kind of love that sees you clearly and celebrates who you are. Build a beautiful life, my darling. That's all I ever wanted for you. A beautiful life filled with purpose and joy and love. You deserve nothing less. With all my heart, your mother, Helena. Simone read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face. Helena had known. Somehow she'd known that Simone would need to hear these exact words. That she'd need permission to move forward, to be happy, to stop carrying the weight of the past. She put the letter carefully back in its envelope and added it to the box with the others. Then she did something she'd been avoiding for months. She packed up the last of Jerome's things that he'd left behind, photos from their marriage, anything that reminded her of who she used to be when she thought their relationship was real. She didn't burn them or throw them away dramatically. She just packed them neatly in a box and put them in storage. Part of her history, but not part of her present. That weekend, Simone hosted her first dinner party at the estate. She invited Gabriel, Nicole, Tony, Dr. Kim, Thomas, and a few of the designers from her company. She wanted to celebrate not just the divorce being final, but the life she'd built, the people who'd helped her. To new beginnings, Gabriel toasted when everyone had gathered. And to the remarkable woman who made them possible. To Simone, everyone echoed, raising their glasses. The evening was warm and genuine, filled with laughter and good conversation. Simone looked around her dining room, Helena's dining room, and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. A year ago she'd been alone and broken. Now she was surrounded by people who respected her, supported her, and genuinely cared about her well-being. After dinner, Gabriel helped her clean up while the others moved to the library for coffee. This was nice, he said, loading the dishwasher. Seeing you happy. Relaxed. I am happy, Simone realized. Actually genuinely happy. Not just okay or surviving, but happy. You deserve to be. Gabriel dried his hands and turned to face her. Simone, I know you said you needed time. And I respect that completely. But I'd like to ask you something. Simone's heart beat faster. Okay. Would you like to go to dinner with me? Not a business dinner or a casual meal between friends. An actual date. Simone looked at this man who'd been patient and kind, who'd helped her transform from victim to victor, who saw her strength and celebrated it instead of feeling threatened by it. Yes, she said simply. I would like that very much. Gabriel's smile was brilliant. Really? Really? I'm ready, Gabriel. I'm healed enough, strong enough. I know who I am now, separate from Jerome, separate from my past. I'm ready to see what could be. He took her hand gently. We'll go slow. No pressure, no expectations. Just us, getting to know each other as more than friends and colleagues. I'd like that, Simone said. Slow and steady. Building something real. Their first official date was the following Saturday. A nice restaurant, good conversation, genuine laughter. Simone felt no anxiety, no need to perform or hide parts of herself. Gabriel knew her whole story and was here anyway, not despite her past but alongside it. Over the next few months, their relationship developed naturally. They took walks in the estate gardens. They attended museum exhibits and concerts. They had long conversations about everything and nothing. Gabriel met Simone's design team and she attended hospital fundraisers with him. It was so different from her relationship with Jerome. There was no drama, no manipulation, no keeping score. Just two adults who enjoyed each other's company and treated each other with genuine respect. In March, Simone gave her first keynote speech at a conference on women in business. She talked about resilience, about rebuilding after betrayal, about transforming pain into purpose. The response was overwhelming. Women came up to her afterward, sharing their own stories, thanking her for being honest about the difficult parts. "You're becoming a voice for people who've been through similar situations," Nicole observed afterward. "Have you thought about doing more public speaking?" "Maybe," Simone said. "If it helps other women realize they can survive and thrive after betrayal." The foundation work continued to grow. By spring, they'd helped over 1,500 people through the trauma centers. Simone read every feedback survey, touched by the stories of lives changed and hope restored. One letter particularly moved her. It was from a woman in her 40s who'd been in an abusive marriage. "I came to the trauma center thinking I had no options," the woman wrote. "I thought I was trapped. The counselors helped me see I had choices. They connected me with legal aid, job training, childcare support. I left my husband, got my own apartment, started a new career. I'm rebuilding my life because someone cared enough to help. Thank you for creating this center. You saved my life." Simone showed the letter to Gabriel that evening over dinner. "This is why Helena built everything," she said. "For letters like this. For lives changed." "And you're continuing that work," Gabriel replied. "Expanding it, making it sustainable. Helena would be so proud." In April, Simone received notification that Jerome was being released early for good behavior. She felt a moment of anxiety, then realized it didn't matter. He had no power over her anymore. The restraining order was still in place. Her life was completely separate from his. "You okay?" Gabriel asked when she told him. "I'm fine," Simone said and meant it. "He's part of my past. A painful chapter that taught me important lessons. But he's not part of my present or my future." "What did you learn?" Gabriel asked curiously. Simone thought about it. "That I'm stronger than I knew. That I deserve respect and honesty. That real love doesn't manipulate or control, it supports and celebrates. That I can build something meaningful from even the worst experiences." "Those are good lessons," Gabriel said softly. "Expensive but good." By summer, Simone's life had found its rhythm. Her business was successful, the foundation was thriving, her relationship with Gabriel was deepening in healthy ways. She'd made peace with her past and was actively building her future. One evening, sitting in the estate gardens with Gabriel, Simone felt a profound sense of contentment. "I used to think happiness meant having a perfect life," she said. "No problems, no pain, everything going smoothly." "And now?" Gabriel asked. "Now I think happiness is about having purpose. About being with people who see you clearly and love you anyway. About building something meaningful even when life gets hard." Gabriel took her hand. "You've built something remarkable, Simone. Not just the business and the foundation but yourself. You've transformed from someone broken into someone whole." "We're all always a work in progress," Simone replied. "But I like who I'm becoming. I think Helena would too." "She would love who you are," Gabriel said with certainty. "Brave, compassionate, determined, kind. Everything she hoped for her daughter." As the sun set over the gardens Helena had designed, Simone felt her mother's presence. Not literally but in the beauty of the space, in the work they were doing, in the legacy of love that continued even after death. Jerome had tried to destroy her. Instead, he'd freed her to discover her true strength. And now, 1 year later, she was thriving in ways she'd never imagined possible. This was her new beginning. Her real life. The one she'd built from the ashes of betrayal and the foundation of her mother's love. And it was absolutely beautiful. Simone stood in the hospital room where everything had changed, exactly 2 years after the accident. The room had been updated since then, new paint, new equipment, but the space still carried the weight of memory. "I thought I'd find you here," Gabriel said from the doorway. "Nervous about the speech?" "A little," Simone admitted. She was speaking at the hospital's annual gala tonight, sharing her story one more time for a new audience of potential donors and supporters. Gabriel joined her at the window overlooking the city. "You don't have to do this, you know. You've already done so much for the foundation." "I want to," Simone said. "Someone else might be sitting in a hospital room right now, feeling like their life is over. If my story helps them see there's a path forward, it's worth the nervousness." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Gabriel pulled out a small envelope. "I have something for you. Dr. Monroe, my predecessor, the Gabriel you first met. He asked me to give you this when you were ready." Simone looked confused. "You're Gabriel. You've always been Gabriel." "I'm Gabriel Torres," he clarified with a gentle smile. "The man you met the day of your accident was Dr. Gabriel Monroe. Different Gabriel. We both worked with your mother." Simone's head spun. "You never corrected me when I started calling you Gabriel months ago. You seemed ready to move from Dr. Torres to something more personal. I liked hearing you say my name." He handed her the envelope. "But Dr. Monroe wanted you to have this. He passed away 3 months ago, peacefully in his sleep. He made me promise to give you this letter when the timing felt right." Simone opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a letter in handwriting she recognized from Helena's journals. "My dear Simone," it began. "By the time you read this, I'll be gone. I'm writing this on my final day of consciousness, wanting to leave you with some final thoughts. Finding you was the greatest joy of my life, even though I wasn't there to see your face. Gabriel has told me about your strength, your grace, your determination to honor Helena's legacy. I'm so proud of you, though I barely know you. I want to tell you about your mother. About the woman she was beyond the journals and the business empire. Helena was funny. She had this terrible habit of laughing at her own jokes before she finished telling them. She was stubborn, brilliantly stubborn, never accepting that something was impossible until she tried everything. But mostly she was loving. She loved with her whole heart, completely and without reservation. She loved you that way from the moment you were born until the moment she died. And she wanted you to know that kind of love, not just to receive it but to give it. Don't be afraid to love again, Simone. Don't let what Jerome did close your heart. There are good people in this world, people who will cherish your strength instead of trying to diminish it. Gabriel Torres is one of those people. I've watched him with you these past months and I see the way he looks at you. Like you're remarkable. Because you are. Your mother's greatest gift to you wasn't the money or the hospitals. It was the example of how to love, fiercely, hopefully, persistently. Love like that. Live like that. Be brave enough to open your heart again. You're going to do amazing things, Simone. You already have. But don't let the work become everything. Make time for joy, for connection, for love. That's what Helena wanted for you. That's what I want for you too. With deep affection and respect, Dr. Gabriel Monroe. Simone wiped her eyes. Gabriel, her Gabriel, Gabriel Torres, stood quietly beside her, giving her space to process. "He was a good man," Gabriel said softly. "He loved your mother deeply, though never romantically. She was his closest friend. Finding you for her, seeing you thrive, it gave his final months purpose." "I wish I'd known," Simone said, "that there were two of you. That I could have thanked him properly. He knew. He watched you from a distance, saw you building the foundation, saw you healing. That was thanks enough." Simone folded the letter carefully. "He was right, you know. About you. About us." Gabriel turned to face her fully. "What do you mean?" "He said you look at me like I'm remarkable. Do you?" "Every day," Gabriel admitted. "From the moment I first saw you, actually saw you not just as Helena's daughter but as Simone, I've thought you were extraordinary. Your strength, your compassion, the way you transformed pain into purpose. Yes, I think you're remarkable." "I love you," Simone said, the words coming easily now. "I think I've loved you for months, but I was scared to say it. Scared to be that vulnerable again." Gabriel's smile was radiant. "I love you too. I have for a long time. I just wanted to give you space to heal, to be ready." He kissed her then, gently but with depth of feeling. It was nothing like kissing Jerome had been. This was partnership, equality, genuine affection between people who saw each other clearly. "I'm ready now," Simone said when they broke apart. "Ready to build a future with you. Ready to open my heart completely. We'll build it together," Gabriel promised. Slowly, carefully, with respect and honesty. That evening, Simone stood on stage at the hospital gala in a beautiful dress, looking out at hundreds of faces. She saw Nicole and Tony at one table, her design team at another, the hospital board scattered throughout the room. And at the front table, Gabriel sat with Thomas and Dr. Kim, all smiling encouragingly. 2 years ago, Simone began, I was lying in a hospital bed in this building thinking my life was over. My husband had just abandoned me. I had massive medical bills I couldn't pay. My business was being stolen from me. I had nothing but pain and fear and a sense that I'd never be okay again. I was wrong. Because in that same hospital room, I learned I was the daughter of Helena Ashford, a woman I'd never met but who'd loved me my entire life. A woman who'd built an empire in the hope that someday I'd come home. A woman who transformed her grief into purpose. She talked about the journey, the divorce, the legal battles, the slow process of healing and rebuilding. She talked about the foundation and the trauma centers, about the lives they'd helped change. Helena taught me something even though we never met. She taught me that pain doesn't have to be the end of the story. It can be the beginning of something better. Loss can become legacy. Betrayal can become strength. And love, real love, the kind that believes in you and supports you and asks nothing in return, that kind of love can heal almost anything. She looked at Gabriel as she said this, saw him smile. Tonight we're raising money for 2 new trauma centers. But we're really raising hope. Hope for women leaving abusive relationships. Hope for people struggling with mental health crises. Hope for anyone who feels trapped and helpless and thinks there's no way forward. There is always a way forward. Always. I'm living proof of that. And with your support we can help others find that path too. The applause was thunderous. Donations poured in, enough to fully fund both new centers and start planning a third. Simone stood at the podium, overwhelmed by the generosity and support. After the gala, Gabriel walked her to her car in the parking lot. The same lot where they'd had their first real conversation about moving beyond friendship. You were incredible tonight, he said. Helena would have been so proud. I hope so, Simone replied. I hope wherever she is, she knows I'm trying to honor her legacy. She knows, Gabriel said with certainty. And she knows you're happy. That's all she ever wanted. They drove back to the estate together, windows down, cool night air flowing through the car. Inside, Simone made tea while Gabriel built a fire in the library fireplace. They settled on the couch together, comfortable and close. I was thinking, Gabriel said carefully, about the future. About us. What about us? I don't want to rush anything. But I also don't want to waste time being uncertain about what we want. I love you, Simone. I want to build a life with you. Not right away but eventually. Is that something you want too? Simone thought about Helena and Dr. Monroe, about love that waited patiently and supported unconditionally. She thought about Jerome and everything she'd learned about what real partnership should look like. Yes, she said firmly. I want that. A life built on honesty and respect. Where we support each other's dreams and celebrate each other's successes. Where we face challenges together instead of tearing each other down. Exactly that, Gabriel agreed. We'll take our time. There's no rush. But knowing we're building toward the same future, that matters to me. Me too, Simone said, leaning into his warmth. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire, thinking about possibilities. Outside, snow began to fall gently, covering the estate gardens in white. Simone thought about the journey that had brought her here. The pain of betrayal, the shock of discovery, the slow process of healing and growth. She thought about Helena, searching for her daughter for decades, never giving up hope. She thought about Dr. Monroe, keeping his promise even in death. She thought about all the people who'd helped her, Nicole, Tony, Thomas, Dr. Kim, and most of all, Gabriel. She thought about Jerome too briefly. Not with anger anymore but with a kind of distant understanding. He'd been broken in his own way, making terrible choices from his brokenness. She hoped prison had taught him something, though she doubted it. But that wasn't her problem anymore. Her problem, her joy, was this, building a life of meaning and purpose. Running a successful business she'd built with her own talent. Managing her mother's legacy with wisdom and care. Helping others through the foundation. And loving a good man who loved her back fully and freely. 2 years ago she'd thought her life was ending. Instead it had been beginning. The real beginning, not the false start she'd had with Jerome. This was the life Helena had dreamed of for her. Full of purpose, love and hope. What are you thinking about? Gabriel asked softly. Everything, Simone replied. About how far I've come. About how grateful I am. About how excited I am for the future. Me too, Gabriel said. Whatever that future holds, I'm glad you're in it. We're in it together, Simone corrected. Partners. Partners? Gabriel agreed, kissing the top of her head. Simone looked around the library, Helena's library, now hers, at the life she'd built from ashes. She thought about the trauma centers that would open next year, helping hundreds more people find hope. She thought about her design business, thriving through her own hard work. She thought about this man beside her, who saw her strength and loved her for it. Jerome had meant to destroy her. Instead, he'd freed her to discover who she really was. Helena's daughter, yes, but also her own person. Strong, capable, compassionate, and deserving of genuine love. The future stretched out before her, full of possibility. And for the first time in her adult life, Simone wasn't afraid of it. She was ready. Ready to love and be loved. Ready to build and create. Ready to honor her mother's legacy while making her own mark on the world. This was her story now. Not a story of betrayal and loss, but of resilience and triumph. Of finding family in unexpected places and love in its truest form. Of transforming pain into purpose and grief into grace. Helena would have been proud. Dr. Monroe had been proud. And most importantly, Simone was proud of herself. She'd survived the worst and built something beautiful. And she was just getting started.